Are your existing solutions able to take advantage of real threat intelligence? Common solutions like firewalls weren't designed to handle the massive and growing volume of threat indicators. This challenge often results in significant gaps in your protections, even when you think you have it covered. You need to protect yourself by filtering network traffic against unique threat indicators in a way that allows you to act. PolyWall by Bandora Systems is the solution that filters over 10 million indicators right out of the box. Developed in partnership with the Department of Defense, PolyWall is affordable for companies of all sizes. Get your free trial today at bandorasystems.com. Rapid7 powers the practice of SecOps. Using shared data, analytics, and automated workflows, SecOps unites IT, DevOps, and security teams to make security an outcome of innovation. Rapid7 combines technology, expertise, and advocacy to drive vulnerability management, application security, incident detection, and log management for more than 7,000 organizations worldwide. Power up your SecOps practice with a free trial at rapid7.com/securityweekly.
All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. We talk about innovation. So you heard Lawyer Liz talk about all the different things we can do with innovation, with drones and with autonomous cars and all these other things emerging around smart cities and IoT. Part of the heritage of this program is looking at those pieces of innovation. And one of the great ways to measure them is we take a look at what's happening in the world of startups. So some of these things aren't always startups. They've been around long enough. Their dollars are big enough. And some of you have asked in the past, when is a startup no longer a startup? The answer is when it exits or ceases to exist, right? So once you start taking money, and there's a variety of ways to do that, then there has to be some sort of an exit point, and that kind of denotes when you're going to be there. When we take a look at how all of this works and breaks down, it gives us a lot of insight into where we're spending our time and attention as an industry and as a community. And I'm always curious about, are we connecting up the different areas that either you should be paying attention to, or maybe you have? What do you think of it? So with that said, you can always remember we've got our on-demand material. It's available at securityweekly.com/on-demand. Paul and I we recorded one last week. We were looking at edge endpoint detection and response. And so you'll get to see what a couple of our partners have to say on that, their unique points of view, as well as what Paul and I thought about it. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, but I always feel that way when I learn from Paul, and I'm guessing you would too. So you can check that out along with a lot of other stuff, securityweekly.com/on-demand. All right, so Paul, I put this first one in. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I think it's an important thing. So I follow PitchBook. I think their stuff is really good, and they tend to look at private equity. And they said, all right, so 2017 was a down year for private equity, which, by the way, I appreciate their point, except for we saw private equity plays all year in the $1 billion of ranges. So their point is it was a lull, but by no means, especially in cybersecurity, was it small. But this year, oh man, they're gangbusters. And I would say, based on the stories we're covering, that seems to be pretty accurate. Here's what it breaks down. The big players are in Silicon Valley, no shocker, and the Mid-Atlantic states, also no shocker. And it has a couple other details and stuff that's in there. So if you're interested in these types of things and you follow it and you want to geek out more, you can take a look at that. But let's talk about Carbon Black. So Carbon Black IPO'd. And don't forget, we interviewed Michael Tanji on episode 18. He was one of the co-founders of Carbon Black. Long time ago, Carbon Black has had a 16-year journey to IPO. In fact, Axios, which I think does some fun reporting in this space, has like a whole timeline of some of the things that they did and how they got there, and how it was Bit9, Carbon Black, and then it just became Carbon Black and things that they were able to do. But check this out, because this is the second company. So Zscaler was able to do this, and now we're seeing the same thing here. So when we talked about it, their target price for their IPO was going to be between 12 and maybe as high as 15. And they kept cheating it up, and they raised it the day before the IPO, target price of 17 to 19 per share. When they finally popped and went public, they raised $152 million, and they closed their first day of trading up 26%. By all accounts, that's a success. 16-year journey, lots of stuff, but it's in that EDR space that we keep talking about. It's a hot space, and it takes a lot to compete there. So to have persisted for 16 years, to have built the partnerships that they did, and then to be able to not only have an IPO, but have a pretty successful IPO that now people are saying, see, look, the tech market's back, baby. I'm looking at it saying, wow, security is definitely playing well. People are paying attention to it. And I think largely the companies that are doing well, kind of makes sense. I mean, like, I'm not surprised that they're doing well. Were any surprises in this for you, Paul? Or does this feel like a continuation of what you expected?
I'm old, so I remember probably in 2002, 2003-ish timeframe, having lunch with a sales team, because Bit9 was born out of our neighbors to the north, right in East Cambridge, Massachusetts. So they came down in it. They were fired up, dude. I mean, they were fired up about this endpoint problem, and what a time 16 years ago, if you think about what was happening on the endpoint, what a time to be fired up about endpoints. And I just think it's amazing that they've been able to keep up that momentum all the way to bring it to IPO. That's a long journey, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like it. So congratulations to the entire team and all the people that have been part of that over the years. It's got to feel great, and that's fantastic. Some other things to take a look at. Trusted Key raised $3 million in seed. I put that in parentheses or air quotes because they've got $9 million in funding over 3 rounds. $3 million is not a seed round. So this is one of those things that we look at when we start breaking these down, and I'm getting better and more comfortable with it, and we'll do a segment. We'll bring back a Will Lin or somebody else. We'll break some of these down. But on the last interview when Will Lin joined us, he said, look, don't worry about what they papered the round as. Look at the amount of it. $3 million, definitely an A raise. So they had a debt round, they had an equity round, and then they took $3 million in seed. One of the other things that you and I have uncovered over the last year, Paul, is that that's kind of the new trend. There's pre-seed money. It could come from a number of things. So by the time you get to your seed round, it's not really your seed round. You're pushing further down the road. So they've done about $9 million in funding. But listen to this, because I got to tell you, and then I want you to just quickly look at their website as I set this up, because they did some stuff I thought was interesting. So Trusted, I'm quoting to you their description. They develop an enterprise digital identity solution that helps organizations to streamline their customer acquisition on digital channels. Aside from the passive constructions in there, enterprise digital solution acquisition, customer acquisition. Like, I got that. Like, I went, oh, so this is another identity thing. And they have an explainer video right on the front page. So like they've got like 4 points of things that we can do in an explainer video. They're trying to answer the problem that they solve and how they help you and how they can give you some value and some benefit to it. So I don't have any experience with it, but seems pretty exciting for them.
It's interesting. Their ability to communicate their vision and the problem they solve is likely what led to their $9 million in funding so early on in the company's history. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think what they do that you and I have talked about before is their focus is on, okay, how do we make this easier for consumers? And then as somebody who's going to work with us, how do we make it easier for you to acquire consumers and clients and have everybody happier through the process? I tend to think people really focused on that do well. If their technology can match the rhetoric, it's going to be fantastic for them. This one was interesting. So I tried to find this group on Owler, and it really didn't work out. But Namogoo, $15 million Series B. It's actually kind of interesting. If you go to the Forbes article that we linked to here, it actually explains out what the name means. They've got kind of a neat story. So they got a $15 million Series B. So Series B. So when you're at your Series B, that means that you're still trying to get your product market fit right. You're trying to get your unit economics right. You're getting ready for growth. $15 million for an online type of a thing. It seems about right. $29 million over 2 rounds. So they had a pretty large A as well. But their idea is to combat online journey hijacking. And they gave a great example in the Forbes article. They said, imagine you get to an airport and somebody who looks like the taxi that you pre-ordered shows up, has your information, and says, I'm going to take you to your hotel. Okay, sounds right to you. You hop in. You don't really know the hotel you're supposed to go to. And they bring you to a totally different hotel who honors the price, the reservation, everything that you thought that you had, and your experience is fine. So that's called online journey hijacking. And the original hotel that thought you were going to be there, they're out the money. They didn't get the money, and you're none the wiser, and you're happier for it. And apparently this happens a lot. There's a lot of this happening.
Sounds like some pranks my friends in the hacking community have played on each other, where they have like this bet, like, you can't find me. And then when my friends went to Russia, checked in, had someone pick him up at the airport, took him to his hotel, walked him in his hotel room, and there's a hot cup of tea just the way they liked it with a note from their other friend, found you.
There you go. So now they too could be part of this other thing. The other big story of the week, and this was kind of interesting to me for a lot of reasons, IronNet Cybersecurity, $78 million Series B. By the way, that's $118 million over 3 rounds since August of 2015. They started with a small equity round. Then they got a Series A in October of 2015 of $32.5 million. The 78 million adds on to that. So they lasted more than 2 years. So that's well within the range to it all. Here's what I think is notable, and this is what kind of makes everything work really well. The company was founded and it's headed by retired General Keith Alexander. And if you're saying, yeah, I recognize that name, you should. Former head of the NSA, and then did a whole bunch of other stuff and the first cyber command. So if you're looking at somebody who's been paying attention to this industry and literally been on the forefront of the battle on both an intelligence and an army or a military side, he's got some just tremendous experience, good reputation, good chops. I think that absolutely goes to play here. But then when you dig into the Reuters article I listed up, their product's called Iron Dome, and they've deployed it with 5 energy providers already. There is so much interest in getting that space correct right now. So if you take somebody who's looked at like the real APT and really understands cyber warfare, probably better than most, if not better than most, and has rolled that into a company where they're able to make a difference and has already gotten traction in the energy sector, wow, that's freaking fantastic. So congratulations to them. That's a big raise. And our friends at Trident were actually part of that original raise. So this is also good for them too. So that's all pretty exciting. So, we're kind of back to our not too many things happening in a week, but we're seeing people kind of move again and the pace picking itself up, I guess, probably until the summer, right? Once we come up on Black Hat, we'll see people trying to rush some stuff in and out, but we'll be there. We'll cover it. We'll figure it out.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that wraps up another week for us. You can catch me on Twitter at Catalyst. Paul is at Security Weekly. You can see us at the Source Boston Conference this week. And you can always drop us a note. Let us know what you thought of the show. If there's a segment you want, if there's anything else we can do to help you out, let us know. We'll be happy to do it. Otherwise, we'll see you next week live, Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and tell us what you thought. Till then, be safe. See you next week.
Thanks.